of Igbo land. Chinua also went ahead to explain that if you look at an average Igbo society, you would understand that the reason why Igbo people choose to be Republican is not because they have the incapacitated innate quality not to have a large empire. No, it is for the mere fact that in Igbo culture and the cultural worldview that he believes in is that everybody is entitled to not only his own opinion, that this government is actually more active and important in Igbo land in a situation where when decisions are taken and there is a roundtable meeting, because the communities are disintegrated and Republican in nature, they are smaller. Everybody's opinion counts. In a meeting of 10 minutes, 10 people could actually talk in one minute, as against a big empire where most cases meetings might not be held. And even if it does take place, everybody will not speak. And he gave reference of the British people who came at the point when they had monarch. One person who is ruling millions of people, as an Igbo land, maybe 100 people makes up where they sit together to deliberate. Achebe also believed that Igbo culture is dynamic. The Igbo cultural group and community with a distinct identity, culture, and characteristics, especially the communalistic social interaction with another dynamic nature of culture activated through interaction with not only Igbo people. And he made mention that his worldview encompasses that an average Igbo cultural worldview shows that a man will always worship the God of his father, even if that God is not of Igbo God, but for the mere fact that that was what your father did, and it was efficient for him, because Igbo culture is pragmatic. It is about what works, which is why he said that in Igbo, in a meeting of 10 communities, 9 can agree and 1 will come out and say, this thing has never worked for me. And they will let him have speak. And the other 9 will either move ahead, which he says that you don't get compared to what the British people brought to us. He also said that British people brainwashed our people by telling them that our gods were wicked. But that wasn't the case. That British people brought it as though that the ideology of representation and democracy came from them. But that was also not the case, because the Igbo cultural worldview and the major instrument of republicanism is actually democracy, where everybody has their view and you agree where you want to agree and disagree where you do not want to disagree. And this has contributed immensely, which is why according to him, if you look at Igbo culture before the coming of the white people, we recorded the least war. As a matter of fact, the wars in Igbo land was exacerbated as a result of contact with the white people. When white people begin to buy slaves, when white people begin to come with arms and guns and gunpowder. Prior to this period, the domination in Igbo land is based on trade, based on acquisition, based on that if you work hard, you are bound to be rewarded. He also believed that capitalism, as white people projected it, even though theirs was sorted with some certain grade of inhumanity, that white people actually met capitalism in Igbo land. That the reasons why an average Igbo man married 6 wives, big family, and a very large yam turban is actually capitalism, because you work and you get rewarded according to your ability to work. So that's a lot Achebe contested with white people at his own time. At most time, if not going through his work, most of us will not understand this man has actually done a lot of things easier for us. Like he said, one of his quotes that I love the most is that he says that the truest test of courage, is dignity is his ability to either refuse or reject compromise. I can't remember the right word he used. So again, Achebe also believe on his cultural worldview. If you check things fall apart, page 13, page 180, and page. Sir. Okay. Achebe also believe if you check his work, things fall apart, I think is on page 11, is also on page 13. Then something similar on page 180 and page 183. He said that furthermore, that democracy, that each man is a judge in his own merit, according to his own words, not those of his father, as would be appropriate in an aristocracy or in an oligarchy. And because at this point in time he's contesting with two kinds of religion, the religious, the Christian religion, and also the Islam. And if you look at the oligarchy there and you look at the aristocracy there, you would remember that on the north we had aristocratic kind of leadership. On the west that came is oligarchy. Communal was reigning there, and they came to Igbo land where everybody was free. That's all I have to say about Achebe. And lastly, he said that Igbos believe that it is good that a man should worship the gods and the spirit of his father, even if these gods are not of Igbo land or not made of Igbo. It is the ability to produce pragmatic results that makes a man worship God. If your God is inefficient, especially in time of your challenge or in time of revelation, that God is actually irrelevant. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Just want to say thank you to the moderators of this session. It's been a great one, just listening to the life of Chinua Achebe and what he did in his time. And again, when I listen to people like this, it just challenges my mind and it pricks me to say, what have you done? Is the question I've been asking myself. What would you be remembered for? We're sitting here remembering this man for his great works. And we find that in our time, we're pushing for the same things, the ideas that he had. It touched me. One of my take homes from today was the one he talked about how these people he was trying to tell us about are cutting through what unites us together. He said they've come to destroy what binds us. I'm not quoting him verbatim, but that's my understanding. And it just breaks my heart to say, what if they didn't come? Where would we be now in terms of our culture? Where would we be headed? But again, like he said, we're fluid and flexible, and it's changed. I was just going to read out that quote that Marx was trying to paraphrase about what he said. And this is to all of us in the room, given what's going on in our current world, given what's going on around us back home in Nigeria, It says one of the truest tests of integrity is its blunt refusal to be compromised. That took me deep. It's the test of you not being compromised for what you believe in. We see how in our generation today, money speaks, shit happens, and people lost their sense of humanity, a sense of the principles that hold people. You know, the norm has been replaced. It's the things we see as normal now are not things that humans should see as normal. The killings where people just see it as normal, oh, it's normal day, somebody just dropped dead. Yes, we continue to move, which is fine. But at what point would you think your integrity can be compromised? And how would you stand the test of your integrity? If you were to be tested today about the things that you strongly believe in, will you stand the test? Or would you be compromised? The thing about our heroes, the ones that lived before us, is they always leave us with great thinking, things that we need to ponder about, things that we can relate even to our present, regardless of how far ago or their experiences. I mean, he was writing at the time what was going on, the experience he was living at the time. That's right. But you can very well pick it up and relate it to the present easily. And this is what makes it a great piece. I want to say thank you so much for the audience, for sitting down, all of you who sat down through the session and have listened to it. All of you great Igbo people and all our brothers. Bonka, I see you in the audience. Thank you so much for being here, for just staying with us through it. Thank you so much, everyone on the stage. Leader, Ranko, I see you, Think, Brian, Samadina, Max, Ugu, Aburi, Uche. All of you guys have been absolutely amazing. You've taught me so many things and opened my mind and struck my mind again to another set of thoughts. And I'll leave us all to just keep thinking and pondering, what are we going to leave for the next generation? What would our kids be reading about us? What would they say about our generation? And I'm going to leave it at that. Please follow the house. If you're an Igbo person or a lover of Igbo culture and people, or the friends of our friends, please follow the Igbo Nation. Click on the green icon on the top and follow the club. Every Igbo person, we welcome all of you. This is a place where we'll feel free to discuss what matters to us, about our culture, about the things that we're facing today, about how we can progress for tomorrow. And we discuss it all. Please follow the club and come back anytime so that you can be notified anytime we have a session. They're always mind-blowing, so you'll be amazed. You'll be happy to be here. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And
thank you, Gogo.
enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Gogo.
It's not. We are not yet done. We just finished the part 1 of this feast, so we are entering into the part 2 of the feast now.
Pardon me, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm going to open the hand raising for people to raise their hand. Now, this is the free speech time. Any quotes, anything about Chinua Achebe, don't worry, I have my list. Anything about Chinua Achebe, you are very free now to talk. So I have on my list 3 people already. I have Bonka, I have Brian, and I have Ranka Dede. So if you want to... Okay, I also have leader, so that's number 4. So
Matt.
Okay. So please, I would rather people, please, if you come on stage, kindly mute your mic. Mute your mic to come on stage. I wouldn't want any interference. If you want to speak, back channel me. I'm going to put you on the list. Just back channel me, At the moment, the people on the list are Bonka, Brian, Ranka Dede, Leader, and Max. So we'll go in that order. Bonka, I've sent him an invite since. Okay, so before Bonka comes up. Oh, okay, Bonka is here. Bonka is here. So Bonka, you have the floor. Bonka, okay, while we wait for Bonka to get settled, please, Brian, can you talk? Then if you want to speak, I've checked me. Small far, please, I'm going to get you down if you keep interjecting with your mic, please.
Okay.
Brian, carry on. Yeah, after you go.
I would start by saying that Chinua to me in a very at a very important time of my life. I was one of those kids who grew up outside the Southeast and couldn't really speak and didn't really understand much of the culture, even though I went to the village at Christmas. So it wasn't until my third year in 1982 when we got to, because I was a science major and essentially we were asked to choose. So like one of my electives was English literature. So unfortunately, I haven't, I didn't really know much about Chinua Achebe until 82. And Things Fall Apart was part and parcel of the books we were going to read. I think back then it was Julius Caesar, Great Expectations, and this one. So it's, although I had read a lot of other Nigerian writers, Olarutini, Wole Soyinka, I think I did the Kenyan one, Ngugi Tiongo, The Sweet No Child. For me, as an Igbo person, that opened my eyes to a lot of culture. It was like what Ogbonna said.
Sorry, Brian, sorry to interrupt. I forgot to say we have 3 minutes for the session for every speaker.
Not a problem. So it was kind of an eye-opener for me. So what I'm going to do now, rather than even go into the details of the book itself, when I read it, I was wondering why, when I read it, I think it was at the preface that I now realized the reason why the book was called Things Fall Apart. So I'm going to quickly read where this comes from. Thank you. It comes from a poem by William Butler Yeats called The Second Coming. So I'll just read the first stanza. So it's turning and turning in the widened gear. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loose upon the world. The blood-dim tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. So anytime, after reading that book, anytime I think of Nigeria, I always think about this particular poem, Second Coming. Even though if you look at it deeply and analyze it with regards to Chinua Achebe's book, it's actually about, the poem relates to, the death of the old world, then how it's followed by the rebirth of a new one. So it just depends how you analyze it in your head. So basically, I would like to yield the mic, but Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart, was basically what, as Ogbonna said, was like a Bible. It was what opened my consciousness and being inquisitive about Igbo culture. At that time, I hadn't been initiated into the masquerade society in my village. And I started asking my dad questions after reading that book. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for keeping to time. Bonka, are you there? Bonka, one need the number and Debo. Carry on.
To be on stage.
Hello?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I really apologize for that. I had to go to a place where there's signal. I've been here listening all the while, and it's been so great to listen to Chinua Achebe. And the first time I heard of him, strangely enough, it was in my college. I was in college. We call college university. I had my university degree in New York, and they said it was coming to the university, and you could see that energy, not actually with the students, but with the professors, right? So the excitement, I've never really seen that kind of energy towards a black man. And all the white people, in fact, they lined up as his car was coming in. They lined up to receive him, and as he walked out, they were shaking him. And I'm like, wow, this man must really have touched people's lives. That was the first time I knew about him. And before you knew it, his books was all over the school. And then, strangely enough, I started when I'm going to school, when I'm going for my classes, and I'm in the train. I see everybody holding a copy of the book. The most popular one was the Things Fall Apart. And this was the first time I actually had my curiosity about him, not even in Nigeria, strangely. So on reading about him, something I appreciated about him is what you will call his stubbornness to his beliefs. He was not a man that was ready to conform. He was a man that wanted to present Igbo people to the world. And he was not going to change his view about that, no matter how much he was pressured and bent to do so. There was a time they were arguing with him that his writing style, even though his ideas are good and stuff, his writing style does not fit into Western literature. And it's like, oh, well and good. That's how I choose to do it. And of course, you will know that there were so many things that he was qualified for that he was never given, including the Nobel laureate and things like that, because of his refusal to adjust some of his writing skills to meet their own view of what it should be. That's one thing I greatly appreciated about him. He never did anything for recognition. He never did anything for rewards. In fact, there were so many Nigerian awards that he turned down. Not once, not twice, not three times. He did things based on his conviction. That's one. Two, his love for his Igbo nation was so powerful that even after the end of Biafra, everybody has moved on, including Ojukwu himself. This man did not move on. Till his last breath, he felt the pain that he never got to have his own country, where the Igbo man has an Igbo country, and nobody from an external factor influences his right to determine his future. He went to the grave a sad man because of this, and I believe that was one of the things that made him write his last book, because he was talking about it, that he needed to leave the world. He didn't want to leave the world without acknowledging that he had this attachment to the Biafra concept. Now, I'm sorry, I have a cold. This has been on for a while. Okay, excuse me. So I wanted to say something very quick, and I'm not really good at saying small speeches, but I will try to wrap it up very fast. The black man is a spiritual man, right? The government has no part. The government had no part in our life. Not only in Igbo land, even in Yoruba land, when we had kings and all that, they did not play any role in our private lives. We didn't have a need for prisons. We didn't have a need for laws to regulate us and things like that. We were spiritual people, and we understood. We were acculturated into societies, and we did not need a policeman, a law enforcement stuff, to direct us before we knew what was right.
The government did not exist to exploit us. The system did not exist to exploit us. The system existed to preserve cultures and traditions. We had no need to pay taxes. So you can see that we were totally different from what the British was. Now, when the British came, they wanted to corrupt a lot of these societies. One of the societies that refused to allow that to happen was the Igbo society. I mean, we know that we don't have to go into all that history, but we know that while indirect rule was made possible in all the other parts of Nigeria, and in places of the Middle Belt where it wasn't easy, they were able to kind of build administrative blocks. The place where it was near impossible to do so was Igbo land. And so they concluded that, oh, this is a place of savagery, and this is a place where there is no organized structure, and we have to build the structures ourselves. That was far from the truth. The real truth was that the Igbo people were not ready to surrender their structures, and they were not ready to teach the white man how he is going to corrupt it. And so they decided to do something very ingenious that greatly backfired. They tried to integrate the Igbo society into the Igala society. And the first set of warrant chiefs that they sent to Igbo land were actually of Igala, the Igala ancestry. And the Igbos rejected it vehemently. And that's another whole big history that we can't actually put in nutshells. So they had to now start recognizing the Igbo people as an independent people that should be respected. The concept of warrant chiefs was not removed, but the concept of corrupting the society was made very impossible. Now, the very first time this notion was corrected that the Igbo society had a structure, they had their way of life, they had their way of doing things, was with the book called Things Fall Apart. There was no way you would read that book and you would not fall in love with an Igbo society. I became very nostalgic about understanding the Igbo society from reading the book. It seemed like a paradise on earth, even though the character of Okonkwo himself was a very interesting one, because he was short-fused, he was short-tempered, and sometimes he was a man that did not think things through before doing them. And so in some situations where other people took caution, he was more, I don't know how to explain it, but his character was more like, look, if you guys are not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that was what ended up with him having to kill the officer that was sent to them without actually thinking it through. And because now he did that and he thought everybody was going to cooperate with him, and then he realized that everybody drew back. So, but now the character of Okonkwo was not the major thing that excites me about the story, but the society, the way it's structured, the way the punishments happen, the way he had to go into exile for 7 years for doing something wrong. Those were all fascinating things. The way the community comes, sits down to settle rules. Those were all the things that was blind to the white man that Chinua Achebe was able to present to the world. And this is one of the reasons why he's very much a very celebrated man today. They may not have given him awards. He may have rejected all awards, but in the heart of people, and for those who love raw literary writings, you will know the place that this man has in people's hearts. Above all, what we remember Achebe for today is more than that of a novel writer, but of a man that loved his people so much and gave the world an outlook of what it was like to be an Igbo man. There's no time you will talk about an Igbo man or Igbo views that you will not talk of Chinua Achebe. That is what I have to say. It's always a pleasure being around my brothers from the East, and I look forward to other engagements in future between us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bonka. It's always a pleasure having you here, having you contribute to our session. Really appreciate it over here. I think the next person we have on the list is Ranka. Ranka, yes. I just want to remind everyone, please, we have 3 minutes to make submissions. Ranka, this is 10:15, so by 10:18.
Okay, thank you, Aburi. Bunker actually laid the foundation for me, so it's going to make my job simpler. But I also want to inform the moderators that you can't expect us to talk about Professor Chinua Achebe in 3 minutes. But I'm going to try and make it as brief as possible. So I want to start quickly from something I just stumbled on. The question was why who influenced Chinua Achebe? So it says Achebe was raised in Ogidi, Nigeria, by Christian convert parents. Therefore, he had an abundance of knowledge about both European and African traditions and culture. The truthful knowledge Chino possessed about Nigeria influenced him to write a book portraying Africans as realistic as possible. So on that premise, I'll be going to extract and quote from No Longer at Ease. So I'll be taking these, I like to speed up a bit. So I'll be taking this quote. Sorry, one moment. Okay, the quote goes thus. It was in England that Nigeria first became more than just a name to him. That was the first great thing that England did for him. So I'm going to read the narration behind this quotation. So it said, this is said by the narrator in the second chapter, while beginning to retrace Obi's life, from the time he receives his scholarship to the moment when he was put on trial. Here, Achebe is saying that it is only when Obi is away from Nigeria that Nigeria becomes important to him, and he has, ironically, the colonizer to thank for this. He has been educated in the language and in the ways of the colonizers. But again, ironically, that brings him closer to home. While in England, Obi feels like a stranger, and even though he speaks the same language, it is not his native tongue. He longs for home and even tries to speak Igbo whenever he can. He even writes poems about Nigeria, and so he begins to behave that with all his newfound education, he will go back and make things better. This is ironic because it is very much a colonial mindset. People, I'll take that again. This is ironic. Okay, I'll take it from the point, he even writes poems about Nigeria. And so he begins to believe that with all his newfound education, he will go back home and make things better. This is ironic because it is very much a colonial mindset. It is what English thought they were doing by giving Africans education and what they called civilization. However, the difference here is that Obi is an insider. He is not, like the English, an outsider trying to impose foreign rules. Nevertheless, he is using the tools of that self-same outsider. This is what England has done to him. It gives him an education and a need for home that becomes problematic. This quote can also relate. People, I want us to pay attention to this. I'll be wrapping up. This quote can also relate to Achebe himself as a writer who took the tool of the English language and wrote back to the colonizers in a form of the novel, the English novel. making that novel his home. He used those tools to bring light to the problems of a colonial and post-colonial world, so that Nigeria will become more than just name. I also want to quickly round up by picking an extract from the book Things Fall Apart as well. So the title of the quote is Generational Divide. Okonkwo was a man of action, a man of war. Unlike his father, he could stand the look of blood. Sorry, one moment, please. Okay, so it goes on to say, Okonkwo engaged his boys to sit with him. Oh, sorry, that's not the one I want.
Ranka, give me extra 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Oh, do you want me to stop now? I can come back later.
Okay, please. Now move to the next speaker, please.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Leader.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really do appreciate this room that was created on behalf of my hero. He's someone that I look up to, one that inspires me. You know, his tenacity, his courage, his belief in himself, and his uncompromisable spirit is what I admire so much. And I do like the story that he wrote about Okonkwo and Okonkwo's fear for not being like his father, for not wanting to be like his father, which was the passion that drove Okonkwo. That is the spirit of an Igbo man who is not. That really reflects on the spirit of an Igbo man who is not bound by his circumstance, who is not bound by the family lineage, who is not bound by the father being a pauper or not being successful. It is what drives every Igbo man to make a name for themselves, regardless of who your father is or who your mother is, regardless of what your circumstance of your birth is. It is that spirit that drives that Igbo spirit that drives every individual to not even look at what the father has achieved or what the father has achieved, to always want to achieve and make a name for themselves. So when all is called, everybody can feel present. So that's one of the things that I respect most. But that's one of the things that I like most about when these things fall apart. And I also like There Was a Country because he didn't care. He was not political. He didn't care about what or how the rest of the world would see his book. He gave his undiluted truth about There Was a Country, about how this country has intentionally marginalized a certain group of people who can add value to this country, but this country has chosen not to use them in developing their country. He talked about the injustice, and he said that until justice is done, and what he said is happening, Nigeria has not yet been able to succeed or thrive because of the injustice. And one more thing I like about Achebe did not, a lot of Africans before him and after him, they like to get accolades from the West. They want to be endorsed by the West. They want to get awards. Achebe clearly stated that he does not need the West to give him accolades for him to be a great writer. He said, who needs the West award? Who needs an award? I'm not using the right word. Who needs the endorsement of the West? Who needs the West to validate? Why should the West validate an African poet or African writer? Why do we need to go to the West for that kind of validation? Because people come back and brag with, oh, I got this award, I got this, I got that. Achebe says that Achebe, you can see that he's a very successful man in his own craft. And you can see how many languages his Things Fall Apart has been translating into. So that means he also told the West, not just by saying it, but by action and by his success, that we don't need to be at your altar where you're going to tell us that we are sent this or we are this or we are that before we can really tell the world who we are. So he was not writing to get any kind of accolades, any kind of awards from the West. He was writing through from his heart, and he was writing for the next generation. And I believe that the battle that you handed on to us, whether it's writing, whether it's politicking, whether it's, we have to create the kind of world that we want to see, which was what Achebe did. He tried to create his own world that he wanted to see through his own circumstances. He was not looking to live in another person's world. He left a footprint in this world, and he left his own mark. And that's why today, after his 96th birthday, we're still here talking about him. And that is one thing I want to leave everybody here with, is to figure out and come out and so that you can also be part of making a decision for what kind of country, what kind of world, what kind of life you want to live. You have to be part of that. You have to be a stakeholder, which Achebe made himself a stakeholder in his own world. And when he was here, he was not just being pushed by the wind, but he was a stakeholder, and he achieved and he created the kind of world he envisioned for the world to be. That's one of the things that I like about Achebe. And it doesn't matter what stage you call Achebe, you see him. You can see how he rejected 2 awards from 2 different presidents. And he said the same reason he rejected the first one, it's still the same reason he rejected the second one. That's the kind of man that we need to see. And we have to realize that our poets, our writers, our sculptors, and everybody that is doing different things are the people who ennoble the Igbo race, the Igbo people. But we have to continue to encourage, and we have to continue to do our things unadulterated, and we have to continue to believe in who we are, and that zeal and that spirit will live on. Thank you guys for everyone organizing this room and for letting me speak.
Thank you, Leader, for your wonderful contribution. Thank you. There's something Leader said, is this the Chinua Achebe's book, There Was a Country? I think it's a book that everyone who is Igbo should read, particularly chapter 8, which is a history of ethnic tension and resentment against the Igbo people, and also his book, The Trouble with Nigeria. That's chapter 9. I think that's the Igbo problem. These 2 chapters they helped me. I see Nigeria through Chinua Achebe's eyes. I view Nigerians of other ethnic Nigerians of other ethnic nationalities through Chinua Achebe's eyes. In his book, The Trouble with Nigeria, he detailed how the other ethnic nationalities felt, their feelings. He detailed their feelings towards Igbo, and also generally the Nigerian feeling towards Igbo. Went ahead to also state the different white papers that were released from the different regions at that time about what they perceived to be Igbo domination. Generally on how Nigeria has even refused to play to the strength of the Igbo because they feel that, whether there's this feeling or this fear that, quote unquote, there's going to be an Igbo domination, Also in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria, also went to great detail, he criticized Igbo in his book, The Trouble in Nigeria, and even in There Was a Country, but, went to great detail to even try to demonstrate this feeling that the Nigerian state has towards the Igbo people. So I always encourage everyone, to try and pick up Chinua Achebe's books, especially, apart from things fall apart, but to understand Nigeria and the perception. Maybe you're Igbo, you don't understand why, there's this vibe you get from other Nigerians, I promise you that once you read Chinua Achebe's There Was a Country, chapter 8, and The Trouble in Nigeria, chapter 9, you understand this, and it will help you. It has helped me in my engagement with other Nigerians because I already know where they are coming from. And I think it will also help other people, with the engagement with other Nigerians. Thank you. Max, you're next.
Thank you, Aburi. God bless you. I appreciate the fact that you were able to give people this advice. If you read, the first time I became aware of there was a country, I was one poor guy somewhere. Then I listened to BBC Network Africa, and I went on with 2 important news. On that Network Africa, they started with Stephen Oster or Sadebe's music. Somebody's mic is on, and it's really killing me. Okay, so on that BBC Network Africa, they started with Chief Stephen Osadebe's music or Sunday or Wendy. It was that day, I'm telling you, as early 2000. It was on that day that I heard from BBC Network Africa that Sunday or Wendy was the highest sold high life, before the modern high life we know from Flavor and Co. That was what I heard that day. Then after that, because it was practically Network Africa to tell you news about Africa. After that day, the analyst was saying that the new book coming from Chinua Achebe is facing challenges of publishing because some African and Nigerian heavyweights, political leaders and writers were going against the publishing as for the fact that the book was not neutral, but speak it the way it is. Just what Leopold von Ranke would tell a historian. Say, speak it the way it is. Disregard if it's going to hurt people, but let people know the truth. It will help them to heal, help them to adjust. Those who need apology will get it. Those who need to apologize will say it. Then people can move ahead. So that's a part. While I was reading one of his books, I ran into one article. He quoted the article. I was quick to go check the article. Behold, in the article, Aburi, you will not believe what I saw in the article. The title of the article is "Who Cares About Biafra Anyways?" published by Harvard Crimson. I saw that one of the reasons why Ojukwu rejected foods and aid from Nigerian government when Gowon has now said, okay, you know what, food and aid can enter Biafra, but it has to pass through land and Nigerian government had to vet it, was that food has been smuggled from Nigerian part to Igbo land and a lot of people died. And about 6 people sent by US Department of State that visited Biafra and went home to US with over 150 samples of salt because they consider salt to be an important thing that both the wealthy, the rich, and the very poor will use. A large measurement of them contain cyanide and ice. I don't know, the other one is another dangerous chemical that you use to treat wood. Look for that article. You might really see online a reviewed part of it, but difficult to see the full article itself. But if you have anybody on Harvard, the title is "Who Cares About Biafra Anywhere?" by somebody Plum. And the leader of that group was somebody Palmer. But that apart, why there was something Chinua said in Things Fall Apart, where he said Europeans in Things Fall Apart, however, kill far more in the name of religion than the Igbos. The British, for example, wipe out a whole village that an average Igbo would never do. Then he went ahead. He said, in fact, the British people would say that an Igbo religion is somehow irrational and complex and not direct, whichever language you want to use. Now, Chinua said that the same way they believe that Igbos will not make sense that in a carved God they would interact with Most High God, because that is what Chinua's Igbo cultural worldview explains. That an average man who has a God, it is not because there is a God in that stick. It is that it is from that God that he speaks to Chukwokika Biama, who is the Most High God. Just the same way an average Igbo man that the white people met in Igbo land as early as before 1900 or before 1910. Find it difficult to believe that God actually has a begotten son because God has never married before. So how can he have a son? So if it's irrational for you to believe my Igbo culture, how irrational can you be to tell me that God actually has a son? Which all of us here would believe if we had not acquired the kind of education and read the Bible that we are meant and so many of us forced to read. We will begin to argue that, because to me, it is also irrational, even though I've come to believe it. So that also he said. Then he also talked of something like, the title was, how does Chinua Achebe feel about the changes in Igbo society? And he says that deliberately, the Igbo people and their rich culture and heritage and tribes who are far from being backward. This, of course, makes the arrival of the European with the cultural disintegration that they brought to all of us more tragic. He said at the point when he went to school, it became obvious that an average Igbo person, because Igbo was his case study as an Igbo man, and at that point, he hasn't really been to other parts of the country. You can't really educate an Igbo man if you give him an equal opportunity with a fellow white, which, eventually Mali had it in one of his music where he said, you can't educate us in equal opportunity. And if you remember in 2011, while he was in US, Curtis, what's that his name? Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, had a wonderful movie he made. And the movie, he had given a title, Things Fall Apart. He chose the title even before the movie finished. At the point of releasing the movie, he got papers that the movie cannot fly because Things Fall Apart has been patented and owned by Chinua Achebe. So he moved and visited Chinua Achebe. And according to Chinua Achebe, in BBC interview, Curtis Jackson presented him a $1 million thing so that he can allow him use Things Fall Apart. I want to quote Chinua Achebe, what Chinua Achebe told him. Chinua Achebe said that it wasn't difficult for him to reject the $1 million that he brought, because in his mind, though he's of black skin, but the culture that he has is according to the people who took him to America. And he said, just like many of them believe that Nigerians and Africans in general are various, for such a low sum and for a book that has made more than that over and over, far long before 50 Cent was even born. And Chinua said, if he had come to me to make use of the name without monetary addition, it would have died. So you can see that somehow what this man practiced as a young man, he practiced it even as an old man before and he died just less than 3 years after that. I think he died in 2013 or thereabouts, and he rejected this money in 2011. So you would see that in addition to rejecting an award in Nigeria, where the first one was that you cannot be behind my state in Anambra, where people, let me quote what he said when he rejected Obasanjo's award. He said, a small clique renegades openly boasting of their connection in high places seem determined to turn my state into not only a battleground, but into a bankrupt and lawless. God bless you, fiefdom.
I am appalled at the brazenness of this clique and the silence, if not connivance, of the federal government. Thank you.
God bless you. So he had that rejected, in addition to corruption. And when Goodluck came, like according to Goodluck said he broke his heart because he thought that Chinua would take it from him. But Chinua told him that part of that same problem that made him reject the award of 2004 is also rejecting that of 2011. So that rejection also followed him to America, where he had to also reject money. Wise, according to Chinua, wise Igbo man rewards hard work that also yields money. He also says that Iziafa Kaego, that good name is better than money. Money can be appreciated when it is made in the right way, or when it is made in the wrong way, or when it was used to propagate immoral things. Like he believed that the religion that came to meet Africa was preaching moral. Again, they also preached that our own religion was immoral. But in reality, their own religion was actually more immoral than our own. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Once again, I want to thank the listeners because I find it difficult to listen a lot. But people have been listening here. God bless all of you for listening. And I also thank the organizers of this program. Once again, I yield the mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, for that powerful submission. I got messages from the back channel that I shall allow you to continue to speak because people were love the way you are speaking. Thank you for your submission. I'm sorry, we're going to take a new queue. I think we've run down the queue.
I'm still here. I have not spoken.
Yes, I want to take a new queue of people that have not spoken before. So, if you want to speak, please, can you blink on mic so that we take Nabwike, think more, and then we will take Rankadede. So, Nabwike, think more, Rankadede, then Mickey. All right, so please, 3 minutes each. So, Nabwike, please go.
Yeah, thank you, Aburi. Thank you, everyone. I must thank all of you. We have a saying in my place, where you honor someone or where you mourn somewhere, you also honoring or mourning yourself. When you celebrate someone, you're also celebrating yourself. As you all have gathered here to celebrate this great Iroko, you all will be celebrated. For me, Achebe is more spiritual to me than any other thing, because I've read virtually all his books. I love his books. I love his belief. In fact, he was one of those people that preserve Igbo culture through his literature. Achebe book did something great to me, which I must say, probably for the first time, apart from my wife and few friends, I told this story. There was a time I had serious depression. That was about 9 years ago. Things were very difficult. In fact, we have to move out of London to Hartfield. I was depressed for a very long time. And I could stay a day even without bathing. I was thinking so much. In fact, sometimes I could bath up to 4 times, thinking that I've not even bathed. That was how bad it was. But one very day, I dropped my daughter in nursery, came back home. I just gazed at my bookshelf. It was like things fall apart was beckoning me. I went there and picked that book. When I opened it, it was chapter 14 that I just opened. And that was when Okonkwo went on exile. But I just want to read a paragraph because I can't read the whole of chapter 14. The paragraph that really helped me. You know, when I picked the book, I opened that chapter 4. I was just sitting on my couch, reading it. Then I got to this place where Okonkwo's uncle was talking to Okonkwo. He just called all his children in the morning. That is Njenje. That's Okonkwo's mom's younger brother. He saw that Okonkwo was in a very bad shape. He called all of them in the morning, called Okonkwo, and I will read that place. He said, then, listen to me, he said, and cleared his throat. It is true that child belongs to his father. But when a father beats his child, he seeks sympathy in his mother's heart. A man belongs to his fatherland when things are good and life is sweet. But when there is sorrow and bitterness, he finds refuge in the motherland. Your mother is there to protect you. She is buried there. And that is why we say that mother is supreme. It is right that you, Okonkwo, should bring your mother. Is it right that you, Okonkwo, should bring your mother a heavy face and refuse to be comforted? Be careful, or you may displease the dead. Your duty is to comfort your wives and children and take them back to your fatherland after 7 years. But if you allow sorrow to weigh you down and kill you, then you will die in exile. He paused for a long time. I will stop here now. This place was the exact place I read. I was depressed for months. And after reading this particular paragraph, it was like I became lighter. It was like something left me. It's like I just opened my eyes. My body became so light. In fact, I look at what I was wearing, the clothes that I wouldn't have worn because I love fashion. But I was shocked that I went to shop and bought what I was wearing. I went to bath, and that was the end of the depression. Everything changed from that very day. Few months later, we moved back to London. Everything changed. That shows how, in the pre-colonial time, how we've been tackling mental health. Because the uncle saw Okonkwo, what he was going through, and he was able to call Okonkwo and his children in that morning, spoke to Okonkwo. And when he spoke to Okonkwo, he gave new life to Okonkwo. That was the kind of life I had. And this book also shows how the Igbo people lived in the pre-colonial time. That when Okonkwo was in exile, Uchendu's children contributed 300 seeds each. Yam seeds and other seeds, 300 each. That's 1,100. They first of all built a house for Okonkwo and his 3 wives and children. Then they gave them land. The next thing they contributed seeds, 1,500 yam seeds for them.
No,
That was how.
Please, just round up.
Thank you. That was how we lived. And that is what we're supposed to emulate and continue to live that. We continue to be our brother's keeper. I thank all of you. I'll stop for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Njenje, for that. Just think, Kenneth.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so I just wanted to say a few things. I'm just so happy that we are celebrating Chinua Achebe. Ideally, the topic also got to me in terms of the fact that we're calling it a feast of his posthumous birthday. And it drew me to one of his quotes in Things Fall Apart, where he actually elevated the communality and the egalitarian spirit of the Igbo man. Let me just read through it. It says, a man who calls his kinsmen to a feast does not do so to save them from starving. They all have food in their homes. When we gather together in the moonlit village ground, it is not because of the moon. Every man can see it in his own compound. We come together because it is good for kinsmen to do so. So this just illuminated the spirit of communality, the spirit of togetherness of the Igbo nation in terms of the way we used to live, or the way we still live our lives. Our belief in that togetherness, achieving greater purposes. He also spoke about, in some of his other books, about the concept of mediocrity, and also the concept of social injustice, as well as discrimination, and how federal character also, very terrible principles on which the Nigerian nation is currently built, and on which Nigeria operates to the exclusion of the Igbo race. One particular quote for me was the one in his book, There Was a Country. I'll just go through it briefly, speaking specifically to how mediocrity has destroyed the Nigerian fabric. It goes like this. Nations enshrine mediocrity as their modus operandi and create the fertile ground for the rise of tyrants and other base elements of society by silently assenting to the dismantling of systems of excellence, because they do not immediately benefit one specific ethnic, racial, political, or special interest group. That, in my humble opinion, is precisely where Nigeria finds itself today. And this quote is, this was from the book, There Was a Country.
is very rife in today's Nigeria, where mediocrity has been dismantled. The systems of excellence no longer, do not apply, and it has given rise to it has created a fertile ground for the rise of tyrants, as we currently see the current president of Nigeria. This actually was, almost like he was a clairvoyant, and this is what is obtaining today. Another one which speaks to how for us as Igbos, and we should be very mindful of this, how we are perceived in Nigeria. It speaks to the application of things like federal character and all of that. But let me just quickly read through. It says, in most other nations, the success of an ethnic group, such as the Igbos, will stimulate healthy competition and a renaissance of learning and achievement. In Nigeria, it bred deep resentment and subtle and overt attempts to dismantle the structures in place for meritocracy in favor of mediocrity. Under the cloak of a need for federal character, a morally bankrupt and deeply corrupt Nigerian form of the more successful affirmative action in the United States. The denial of merit is a form of social injustice that can hurt not only the individuals directly concerned, but ultimately the entire society. The motive for the original denial may be tribal discrimination, but it may also come from sexism, from political, religious, or some other partisan consideration, or from corruption and bribery. It is unnecessary to examine these various motives separately. It is sufficient to state that whenever merit is set aside by prejudice or whatever origin, individual citizens as well as the nation itself are victimized. This was also from the same book, There Was a Country. So he was a clairvoyant, somebody who spoke, who saw the future, whose unending love for Igbo nation. He was an Igbo patriot. And was very, very effusive. Was very infectious. He was also, a literary giant who stood towering among his peers, primus inter pares. He was a great man. He spoke a lot about how Nigeria has been, the exclusion of Igbos in the affairs of Nigeria has led to where we are today. So this man was a clairvoyant. He really saw the future. I yield.
All right. I just wanted to read one of his essays, short essays about colonization. Just a short essay. Colonization may indeed be a very complex affair, but one thing is certain: you do not walk in, seize the land, the person, the history of another, and then sit back and compose hymns of praise in his honor. To do that would amount to calling yourself a bandit, and you don't want to do that. So what do? You construct very elaborate excuses for your action. You say, for instance, that the man in question is worthless and quite unfit to manage himself or his affairs. I went to a good school, modeled on British public schools. I read lots of English books there. I did not see myself as an African to begin with. I took sides with the white men against the savages. In other words, I went through my first level of schooling thinking I was of the party of the white man in his hair-raising adventures and narrow escapades. But a time came when I reached the appropriate age and realized that these writers have pulled a fast one on me. I was not on Mallory's boat or steaming up the Congo in heart of darkness. I was one of those strange beings jumped up and down on the riverbank, making horrid faces That was when I said and realized that stories are not innocent, that they can be used to put you in the wrong crowd, in the party of the man who has come to depossess you. Chinua Achebe, African Literature as Restoration or Celebration. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Ugo. And Mo.
Yeah.
Mo.
Thank you, Aburi. Thank you so much. It's been an eye-opening venture here today. I wasn't able to read Things Fall Apart because my sister was reading it when I was in kindergarten, and people around there were so into it, and they were telling me the stories, and everything was just sounding great until they told me to quote and that hubris just cut me off. From that childhood, it became an issue for me. Everybody praises Things Fall Apart. And especially with this forum today, I will go back to read it. But I've been following Chinua Achebe for a while. All my life, per se. I was in his Igbo lecture in Owerri around 2004 or so, 2003, and where he gave his lectures just all through. I like when people are proud of their culture and language, and he spoke all through, no English attached to it. So, and I've read about him, I've heard many people talk about him, and I can liken him to Olaudah Equiano. Olaudah Equiano, one of the quotes I got of, there was a time here in the US, school invited me to just teach them an African culture and all that. So I had to dig into the Igbo culture to teach them, and it was eye-opening for me too. So I got a quote that Olaudah Equiano said that when they brought him over, they took to the church and they were just teaching him his culture. So at the time he asked them, why did you have to bring me all the way to this place to teach me my culture? Why don't you just tell me to teach you the culture that you're teaching me? And that goes a long way to tell you the similarities of the Christian culture that the imperialists brought us. Ordinarily for me, the imperialists would have been very easy for them to colonize the Igbo area if they had come with clean hands, because the culture is almost the same with the Jewish culture. And in those days when missionaries were sent to Africa, if they are going to southern Nigeria, the Igbo area, as a matter of fact, they were told to read through the Old Testament in order to blend in when they get in there. So the missionaries came with our culture, or something not very far from our culture, apart from the fact that they brought Jesus Christ in and some other things. But there are so many things we do in our culture that when you read that, when you go through Chinua Achebe's life and what he stood for, it was all about integrity. It was all about good conscience. It was all about unity. And all those things were there for these people to tap in and then colonize us.
Okay, sorry, it's wrong.
Okay. Yeah, so, but they came and instead they agreed, messed up the thing. So I wanted to to throw a light on the difference between what the missionaries did and what the imperialists did. I am trying to see that the missionaries, what they brought us, is not far from what we lived. And the missionaries had always been with us, even in the Biafran War and all that. But the imperialists who imposed the system we are under now, they are still working against us. So I would like us, if some of us that can get into it, look at the different. Let us not just be condemning the missionaries, what they brought to us. Let us differentiate between the missionaries and the westernization imperialists that they brought to us. Because what the missionaries brought to us is not far from our culture. Because of time, I will stop so far. Thank you.
I disagree with you. Guys, please, I'm sorry, but I do disagree with you when you say don't blame the missionaries. I'll tell you why we blame the missionaries. The missionaries came to Africa. We had wonderful names. We had our great names. They didn't have to change our names. They didn't have to baptize us with their English names or whatever. So the mission did not just come and act only with not only imperialism, that they took away our God system, the systems in our spirituality. So we're not doing the same thing. We're not baptizing other people. I don't have anything against religion, but let's be clear that the missionary came to Africa, he came to Igbo land. If your name is Chukuma, if your name is John, Chukuma Ikenna, they will baptize you and call you John. And now you're a new man because your name is now John. Why could they not baptize you with Chukuma? Why could they not baptize you with Ikenna? Why could they not baptize you with Nang? Our names have meanings, our names are very beautiful. This is just one example of what the missionary did. So we cannot differentiate the missionary from the imperialist. For the imperialist government that came, they all came together and are working hand in hand. And the missionary was also aware that the political angle that came in, they didn't come in to teach us about religion or to save us. They made it so that we can be able to read and write, so we can be able to be governed. So they all work hand in hand. And exempting one and blaming the other person, it doesn't make sense to me. I disagree. And if not, why didn't they go to the north? Why did they not go to save Nigeria? Why did the missionary not say we're going to go to the north and change and convert them to Christians because we wanted to save them? So the ideal idea is what I disagree with. And so thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I do have something. We don't want to make this a back and forth.
No, it's not.
Yeah, just let me respond. Let me respond.
Okay, please, in 1 minute, so that we can take Ranka.
Okay, leader, I may have made a mistake by saying missionaries. I may have said the word mission, because even as we have it today, bad missionaries bad pastors can as well mess up a system. But that doesn't mean that that system is bad. The system we have, even in our culture, there are kings, there are chief priests that mess up the system, that go contrary to the system. But the system in itself, the culture is not bad, but the operators mess it up. So that's where I am coming from. I'm not talking about the missionaries themselves, what they did, how they operated it, but the mission itself. Thanks.
Thank you. No, Ranka, please. We're about rounding up. So please, Ranka, can you go just in 2 minutes, please?
Okay, thank you. So I actually have two quotes, but I'll just round up by taking one of the quotes from Things Fall Apart, So the quote goes by, I have only a short while to live, and so I've Uchendu and Unachuku and Emefu. But I fear for you, young people, because you do not understand how strong is the bond of kinship. You do not know what it is to speak with one voice. So I'll give a brief explanation of that just to round up. So it says, the man who speaks these words is an unnamed elder from Okonkwo's Umena, that is his mother's clan. This elder addresses a group of young men and expresses his concern about the obsolescence of Igbo traditions and the consequent dissolution of cultural and familiar bonds. These words powerfully foreshadow the experience Okonkwo will have when he returns to Imofia following his exile and finds his fatherland increasingly divided as more and more villagers flock to the Christian mission. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Uncle. Mikey.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. A quick one. Thank you all for this occasion. Yeah, it's a very big one. I will start my own by saying there is a quote I coined on my page, and I said, until Africans have their own historians, the history of civilization, religion, politics will always glorify the white supremacy, coined from the Igbo Holy Book, which is Things Fall Apart. I coined that word, and I think it's talking about unless the lions have their own historians, that the history of hunting will always glorify the hunter. So, in actual sense, Achebe did a very good work, like bringing African perspective, balancing the story, because the story has been one-sided. It has been what Chimamanda Adichie calls single story. It has been story from the West, story from the whites. They always paint our stories the way they understand it and the way they want it to be and all that. That is what Chinua Achebe did, bringing the story, African story, from African perspective, and showcasing to the world a more specific Igbo story or Igbo perspective to the world. The second is what Ndubisi said. I think that's the name. The guy is no longer here. Onabi face, somebody like that. The exile that Okonkwo went to is actually a kind of a fundamental right for every Igbo person. That is, inborn, you have that right, because that is one of the essence of our women getting married to a man, and then is one of the benefits that, you know, that could be another story entirely. Now, like, it's one is one of the excuse me.
Somebody had to stand in for him while we wait for him to return.
Okay. It's one of the importance of our Igbo culture, like during the marriage time, that women are to marry and fixed and go with their husband and not looking backward toward their father's house. One of the essence is that when there is a problem in that family, the children of that woman are preserved whenever they comes around to their mother's side. If they committed anything, like when Okonkwo travels to his mother's side, none of his kinsmen can go there to adopt him. He will be there to serve his punishment. No one can ever go and touch it. So that was a natural asylum that everyone has. If you are an Igbo man, it is natural to you, and no one takes that right from you. No one could even go there to violate it, because if Okonkwo's kinsman goes there to take him away from there, like bringing him him home without a due process, his a mother's people would fight back because they have violated the fundamental rule in Igbo land. So, democratic, it is embedded in us. That is what I want to bring out there. And the third one is that it talks about when an oracle asked it. I'm sorry because I don't have that book or the text with me, but I know every one of you can recollect that part. It talks about when a man, an oracle, asks a boy to make a sacrifice for his father because his father requested that, and he asked that oracle that did his father lift any goats when he was even alive? I think he said his father asked him to sacrifice a goat, and the guy responded, did he even have a fowl when he was alive? So it shows about us not being, that we should not accept ourselves or allow ourselves to be manipulated just because somebody is using religion to deceive our mind. So Achebe was more or less like a prophet to me, and he lived a life religiously, and he's a pure saint, and Igbo people should canonize him with all ramifications. Thank you all.
Thank you for that, Mickey. Thank you for that. Uche.
Yes, Aburi.
Yes.
Okay. So let me just
take over from here now so that we can round up.
Yeah, I'll read this, then I'll use it to round up. So I wish to thank everybody who has been with us from the beginning till now. I never even expected this room to have the number of people we had, about 260. And it has also lasted long, but it's worth it. Achebe is a man, I think Mandela described him as the man who brought Africa to the world and the writer in whose company the prison walls fell. So that tells you Mandela was able to read most of his books in prison, and through there he could see himself breaking the boundaries of the limitations of breaking the boundaries of the prison wall. Okay, Achebe, if you listen to him to talk as well, and even in his writing, he's a man that appreciated friendship. And there was a country he wrote about that he's been quoted elsewhere saying that Chris Okibo was one of the finest poets of his generation. And in that book, he said 40 years after he even said that he still stands by that. For while others wrote fine poems, so Okibo conjured up a wild firmament of something wild or something beautiful. I've forgotten the quotes. And when Things Fall Apart turned 50, and Achebe was being hosted by the Library of Congress in the US, he read the Igbo translation of the poem I'm going to read now. And that shows you the tight bond he had with Chris Okibo, another fine Igbo man, the finest poet of his generation. For whom are we searching? For whom are we searching? For Okibo we are searching. Izoma Lizo. So Okibo now could also be Achebe. Has he gone for firewood? Let him return. Has he gone to fetch water? Let him return. Has he gone to the marketplace? Let him return. For Okibo we are searching. Izoma Lizo. For whom are we searching? For whom are we searching? For Okibo we are searching. Izoma Lizo. Has he gone for firewood? May Uboko not take him. Has he gone to the stream? May Iyi not swallow him. Has he gone to the market? Then keep from him, you tumult of the marketplace. Has he gone to battle? Please, Obonuke, step aside for him. For Okibo, we are searching. Izoma Lizo. They bring home a dance. Who is it to dance for us? They bring home a war. Who will fight it for us? The one we call repeatedly. There is something he alone can do. It is Okibo we are calling. Izoma Lizo. Witness the dance, how it arrives. The war, how it has broken out. But the color of the dance is nowhere to be found. The brave on a battle is nowhere in sight. Do you not see now that whom we call again and again, there is something he alone can do? it is Okibo we are calling. Nzomalizo. The dance ends abruptly. The spirit dancers fold their dance and depart in midday. Rain soaks the stalwarts, soaks the two-sided drum. The flute is broken that elevates the spirit. The music pot shattered that accompanies the leg in this measure. Brave one of my blood, brave one of Igbo land, brave one in the middle of so much blood, owners of riches in the dwelling place of the spirits. Okibo is the one I am calling. Nzomalizo. In memory of poet Christopher Okibo, 1932 to 1967. Thank you very much. So with this, it's also Achebe that we are calling. Nzomalizo. Is Obonna PC there? Obonna Goranyo for Kaimeche. Closing prayers, Obonna. Obonna PC. Obonna PC.
I don't think Obonna is still with us. So.
Yeah,
Okay, Obonna.
No, I'm here. You're not a quiet listener.
Okay, Obonna
Yeah.
PC. Closing prayers.
Yeah.
Sorry. Obonna, before you go, I can see that Johnny came on stage. John, do you want to say something for Obonna?
Yes.
Johnny, please,
Briefly.
can you just Obonna is about to finish. Can you just do that in 2 minutes, please?
Oh, sure. I'm not sure if anybody commented about Achebe's masterpiece on his response to Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Did anybody read that piece or comment about it?
I didn't comment about it, but I know about it.
Okay, I think everybody should read that. If you have seen,
I actually did comment about it though.
Okay, good. Yes. So there's no point in me going to that. But look at what Achebe would be working on today, the kind of work he would be producing today, if he was still alive. I think this man would be writing about self-determination. I don't know how many of you are aware that in 2013, Chinua Achebe sent his son to inform the organizers of World Igbo Congress having their convention in Florida, that in 2013, that there was a young man that they needed to listen to, who was going to come and deliver a message to them. That man was Tony Nadi. Chinua Achebe had embraced self-determination. And Tony has been on this forum before, and the next interviews you can ask him more about it. But an interesting twist happened when Tony arrived in Florida. When he got there, the organizers had also invited the political class. And Tony had checked into the hotel. He paid his way there, checked into a hotel, and then denied him the opportunity to speak. It was at the end that one man said, I forgot whose name that was, that individual that said, Tony, that he was going to yield 12 minutes of his time for this organization, for people to hear what Tony Nadi came to deliver to them. So the point I'm making is that Achebe, if he was alive today, would be writing on self-determination. That this man, from the beginning of his life to the end, he was always a fighter for fairness, for the rights of his people, for the full humanity of his people, not just Igbo, but the entire African society that is oppressed. And I just wanted to put that in there, that Chinua Achebe was involved in self-determination. Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you for that, Johnny. Wonder.
Okay. Now we had so much to do. This goes to show that Achebe will live forever. He's somebody who you cannot say the history of Igbo without making a chapter or a sentence for him. He defined what it means to be an Igbo man. He reminded us of who we are. So as we go further, we always have to look back to the inspirations, the message Chinua Achebe gave to Igbo, that you cannot move forward without accepting who you are first. You cannot move forward without your own culture and your own identity. Chinua Achebe was all about balance. he did not say we should be stuck in the past, but he made us understand that even in the past, even that one which we've been brought to reject, that there are still some very good things in it. What that which makes us who we are. All we just have to do is to update, take out some, and we'll have something new. We'll begin to create a movement for ourselves and moving forward. So, often na go na oga duru Igbo mma, oga duru nwoke na nwaanyị mma, na ugo ga-adị n'ala Igbo. Ịfụnanya, that ọgbaghara kama ga-adịgide anyị. Na ọ ga-akwụsị ihe a na-eme n'ọkụ, na ọ ga-ajụ oyi, ọma mpụtụ, na ogologo ndụ na-ahụ ike ihe na-ekwu okwu. N'isi nwoke na isi nwaanyị, n'isi onye ukwu na isi onye nta. That ihe a ha ji mara ndị Igbo. Ihe ndị nkụzi anyị ha kụziri anyị taa, anyị ga-etinye na ndụ anyị, a ga-etinye na ihe anyị na-eme, so that ka ọ mara Igbo mma. Ọnya wụ ọfọ na-agọ, ọnya wụ okwu na-ekwu, na-etikwa, na-asịkwa, ya duru Igbo mma. Na-eke, afọ, oyi, nkwọ. Power Achebe, I yield.